So a few minutes ago, Rohit just mentioned that this is an exciting time to be in healthcare. I say this is also a very exciting time to be in tech, especially given the kind of advancements we have made in artificial intelligence space in the recent times. And here we are here to discuss how we can make healthcare more sustainable with the optimal use of technology. Now, I say sustainable healthcare has a different definition for everyone, let's say. So I want to open this session with your quick thoughts and definition of sustainable healthcare in context to the times that we live in. Times that we live in.
So, if I may start. So, if we look at current, as has been already said, we are living through a revolution, the so-called fourth industrial revolution. And it's being driven by two things. One is technology, and the other is major advances in the area of pharmaceuticals, whether it be vaccine or whether it be drugs. But the main issue that I think we need to look at is sustainable, which means it should be cost-effective, patient-centric, and therefore should be able to deliver as far as the needy patients are concerned. So as we move forward, technology is coming in, but the cost of the technology also needs to be kept in mind so that it is affordable and is something that can be used by the common person. So I think the key issue here is technology will change the way medicine is being practiced in the next 10 years. I can't even guess how the future doctors would be 20 years from now, with so much of technology coming in, artificial intelligence, big data, your wearable devices and non-wearable devices, monitoring which is happening. So all of this will change. But I think we also need to focus more and more on preventive health as far as technology is concerned, rather than only on curative health.
Rajah.
Yeah, so I think he makes a very valid point. So in a large country like ours, the sustainability is almost synonymous with affordability. It's very important to understand that. But if you see the role of technology, technology can actually come in whenever there is a frequent, repetitive activity that has to be done in the same protocol in the process. And that can technology can easily replace those activities. So we see applications that are crazy. Right now, we're talking about drug discovery on one side. The steps of drug discovery can be, 100 in the next 5 years, they're saying, the drug discovery on that end, to even preventative health. We can get so many things from preventative health. The government is very serious about a national health stack. They want to create just like you have a financial ID now, UPI, they want to have a health ID, which is almost come to fruition. And if that comes, and then we can plug those into the technology aspects, it'll be just mind-boggling, and that actually will reduce the cost as well. So I think we are in for very exciting times, very wonderful and very thrilling times for the next 10 years.
So I think very, very amazing points made by both my co-panelists as well, right? Particularly costs. When you talk about sustainable healthcare, costs are right up there as the top metric that it should be adhered to. But I think adding inclusiveness is as important as well. Hyper concentration of best healthcare services in urban areas for people who can afford. I think we need to target, yes, cost as well, but also accessibility of healthcare as well as a metric. But particularly in today's time, right? And coming from the technology background, I really feel sometimes technology goes way ahead, and because of our limitations, human limitations, the protocols and processes that we've kept, we don't challenge them enough, right? So we really need to challenge protocols. For example, the field that I come from, monitoring and early warning system, from the last 2 decades, we use the same early warning scores, right? Now we have machines that can capture data much more frequently, can capture much more dimensions of a patient. So the early warning systems need to be adaptive enough to include that new technology and the benefits that it's getting as well. So we really need to be open to reimagine these protocols, reimagine these processes, keeping in mind costs and accessibility. That's how essentially I feel in today's age, leveraging all resources that we have, not just humans, not just the human capital from an intelligence perspective, but also the technology capital that we have. That is how we can grow non-linearly, right? Otherwise, we'll keep growing linearly. And I think that's...
Yeah. All right, Prasanth, you want to add something?
Yeah. So what I believe is technology would pivot the healthcare from a reactive to a preventive healthcare. And that is where AI and constant data collection will help us lead to, and which obviously increases the accessibility of healthcare as well as figuring out the risk early on so that the costs come down. So technology is at a space where now 3G has moved into 4G to 5G. The mobiles are faster. The mobile phones are much faster than your laptop few years back. So collection of data is there, fragmented, but companies like us would be able to pick this up and predict the future in the next few years. That is where we believe sustainability, by reducing cost and increasing the resource allocation, would help.
So a lot of interesting observations and points there, which I will try and touch upon during the course of this conversation. But I want to start with you, Dr. Rajah, that see, when we talk about healthcare technology, we also have to identify the areas, the segments where we believe it is best deployed in. So have we been able to identify some of the key areas? How do you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, there is tremendous growth happening. I mean, for example, one of the things to easily automate and make a perfect case example would be diagnostics, for example. I mean, there are AI pathology companies that are left, right, center. One of the very huge companies coming out of India that has worldwide interest. I can name the company later if you want. And then there is, so this diagnostics, for example, can easily be, you can use technology to identify blood sample or a radiology report or a chest x-ray, or in fact, it can even help you even look at the chest x-ray better than there have been instances where it's been better than a human eye. We know this from mammography literature already. Mammography with digital help works better than probably human eye anymore. So we have that example, for example, that's easily we can do that. But I think at this point, India should look a little differently because we already have the UHID and a health ID and all. So we should deploy almost 80% of our technology tools into preventative health. And this is where we get maximum bang for buck because we keep talking about cost and sustainability. So I think that's the next step that's going to happen. I mean, I'm sure we'll have, I don't know if you know, but we have monitors that can tell 12 parameters that's on a fingertip. We have stroke preventative monitors that can, like a headband, and can predict a stroke 5 hours before. So these are all are FDA approved and already available. We need to plug those into our chronic care patients, into our preventative care patients at their homes, not in the hospitals. It's too late by the time they come to the hospitals. So I think that's where the real bang for the buck lies, but some of it will happen very soon.
Now, almost all of you mentioned about the affordability part of things, right? How we need to also ensure that it is affordable to most people. Now, when I talk about India, there are almost two parts to our country. One is the rural area, and the other one is basically, rural is the Bharat that we usually talk about, and then there is urban areas. So, Dr. Randeep, I want to understand from you, like when we deploy some of these technologies, how do we ensure that we make them affordable for those rural areas, for those people who come from Bharat? And maybe Gaurav, you and Prasanth can also weigh into it later on.
So I think the challenge here is what we would call frugal innovation. You would have to be innovative. In India, we use a term in India which is known as jugaad. So if we are able to do that, be frugal in our innovation, then I'm sure we can develop technology which is made in India and can be used in India at a much more cost-effective manner. A lot of this we were able to demonstrate during the pandemic. Whether we look at ventilators, whether we look at different devices, even masks for that matter, PPEs, vaccine, we were able to do that at a much lower cost. So I think the technology is there, it's just connecting the dots that is very, very important to be able to do it. But I think the technology and the frugal innovation exists as far as India is concerned. And we need to look at it, how is it practical in our setup? We cannot borrow something from the West and just put it here. We have different challenges, both related to the climate, both related to different terrain, and also in terms of different people in different areas. How can we use that to make it sort of practical in our country? That I think is also important.
You want to add something?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I 100% agree to Sir's point. Made in India is very important. Today we import close to 85% of medical devices that we use in the country. So there is no doubt in my mind that we will be a big consumer of technology, we will be a big consumer of health AI. But it's very important, and we stand at a juncture where not only we can make affordable, we can make amazing AI solutions. And I can expand that in just 30 seconds. What do you require for health AI? You require the best of healthcare professionals and the best of minds that are going to medical science. I think we have, most of them are in the room today.
Absolutely.
We require best of machine learning engineers. I think we have plenty of them as well. And the most importantly, we require diverse pool of data, right? Diverse pool of tag data. I don't think there's any more diversity around the world in any country than India. The length and breadth of our country when it comes to different population, different age groups, different demographics. I think we can leverage that to make top quality health AI products. And let me give you quick examples. Pulse oximetry failed Africa during COVID, right? There are many studies published on this, right? They don't work very good on darker skin. And many of these patients were not identified at the right time, led to deterioration, led to adverse events, led to bad outcomes even, right? Because the first world never made these medical devices or never made these products keeping the world in mind. But when India makes, it will make for entire Bharat, not just Delhi, not just Bangalore, not just Bombay, but the entire Bharat, right? And that is what we need to leverage. So yes, cost is important, but effectiveness and the quality of the product. This is the time for us to leapfrog, and we have a unique opportunity to use the diverse pool of data that we have to create the best AI solutions that the world has seen.
Prashant, you?
So we all talk about new technology and AI. So something which we do is we pick up vital parameters from using a mobile phone, like your heart rate, blood pressure, etc. Now the funny part is if I take it to any doctor, I'm usually thrown out of his office. But we get acceptance of new technology is very low in medical fraternity. Obviously, I understand there is a higher requirement of accuracies. But then we had to go in other ways, like we have to start with insurance and other places where the accuracies might not be that important, and this technology is adopted. Now, if you check the same blood pressure in a same digital monitor twice, you will have two different readings. But people are not ready to check a new technology coming up, maybe because you are used to a particular way of using technology as of now. So that is something which I want to mention in this group.
Again, sir mentioned about the impact on climate, and you mentioned about integrating AI within healthcare, and I want to talk about that in a minute, but I want to stay on this topic of affordability for now, because see, any technology, when you are the early adopter of that technology, there's a high cost that is usually attached to it. Let's take the example of AI. Now, a company like OpenAI, which is sort of the pioneer of making AI mainstream, Microsoft is burning cash like anything on that, right? So when we deploy a new technology in healthcare, let's say, and I want to understand from both of you, that how do you balance the initial cost that is attached to it and the long-term benefits that come with it and the sustainability that comes with it? How do you prioritize the both, and how do you find a balance between the two?
So I think that is the biggest challenge, because as the technology comes in the beginning, the cost is going to be higher. As your, let's say, sales become more, as the number of users become more, the cost will come down dramatically. That's true for even, let's say, new molecules or new drugs which come into the market. But this is where I think that there has to be some support from various sectors, including the government sector, that they support this technology in the beginning when the investment is much more. And they get the returns later on as the number of, let's say, users become much more and the cost therefore comes down significantly. But I think that is a challenge that we need to address and see how we can go about it.
Dr. Rajah, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so they say power of technology is overestimated in the short term and underestimated in the long term. So it's very important to draw a balance, you know, while chasing technology. Even a 1% inaccurate technology or a 0.5% inaccurate technology can play havoc with these processes. So adoption has to be there, and adoption has to be rapid, but adoption also has to be guarded against that. And I do believe a lot of this push has to, as the sir rightly said, has to come from the government control bodies. For example, you know, we said clopidogrel is not 450 rupees, it's 80 rupees one day. And we thought that clopidogrel will stop manufacturing. Well, they didn't. and they made the drug and it still is available. So the price of the drug was reduced to 1/5, right? And still people sucked it up and took it up. So I think that's where it comes. You know, when there's going to be a mass adoption of a technology, I think government has to step in with its set of rules, all the way from privacy to, I think we need to be a little step ahead of that. And one beautiful example is that we had nearly a 30-year-old law against telemedicine. I mean, you know, which wasn't helping us give online consults. One day, the government changed it during COVID, and thanks to Sir and big, people like him. And it's amazing that that happened. I mean, now we can give a prescription WhatsApp suddenly. So when government wants, it moves brilliantly fast, and it can change the whole landscape in 10 minutes. So I hope that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we don't have much time, so Gaurav, Prasanth, quickly want to touch upon the AI aspect of things right now. How do you integrate AI within healthcare services while keeping in the very important aspect of privacy? Because there is that attached to it as well.
Yeah, so I think the privacy part is easier because there are already standards around this. Personally identifiable information have to be separate, should not be used in any sort of modeling, should not be shared across at all, and even the health information should also be shared with consent, right? So I think those parts are pretty easier. There are certain laws around this already, guidelines. In fact, the DPDP Act also touches upon aspects of patient privacy, particularly, and then in how to use it around digital solutions and AI solutions altogether. I think a bigger barrier for adopting technology beyond this is essentially, I would say, we don't understand AI really well, right? We, as healthcare professionals, they are the masters of physiology, but when it comes to AI, it's just a very surface level understanding. And for us technology folks, our physiology understanding is not just even the surface, right? So there needs to be a much more tighter handshake when it comes to exchanging notes, co-developing solutions together, so that we actually make relevant solutions and not just like in our bubble that, okay, these would be relevant and the healthcare professionals rejecting it at face value, that this is not really important, right? So I think a bigger barrier is a tighter handshake. The rest of the stuff is pretty figured out. Like there are regulations around this. I don't think that should be a concern altogether.
Prashant.
So as Gaurav was saying, privacy is something which we could take care of. But obviously, to build any AI system, we need data. So how do we collect data without actually impacting anybody's privacy or intruding into their personal data is something which we will have to work together. But for a country like India, where we are very strong in technology and we have a lot of data, like any doctor here would have seen more patients than a country in Europe. So we have both technology as well as data here and expertise in the medical field. I think the next decade would be us for AI in healthcare.
Any particular area where you have seen that AI has yielded better results or is more useful?
So for me, if I had to pinpoint, there are tremendous use cases of AI.
Sure.
But if I had to pinpoint the value that we will get in the short term and in the next decade, mass level screenings, risk stratifications, and then planning, policy planning accordingly. I think that is a piece that will be solved with AI very soon.
Sir, do you agree with that, or there are other possibilities?
Yes, I agree with that. I think if you look at AI, it will change the scenario when it comes to mass level screening, whether it be radiology. Currently, we have AI being used in rural India in many states. Doing a chest X-ray is done, AI interprets it whether it is tuberculosis or not, and that is very accurate. You have AI which could actually be used in a lot of radiology and also in dermatology, where you could actually take a picture of your skin lesion and AI could help you diagnose what it is. And in a similar way in pathology, where it could also help you when sometimes you may miss an abnormal cell when you're looking at it under the microscope. So AI will come in a big way, both in the diagnostic area, but also in terms of, let's say, the planning or in terms of delivery as far as healthcare is concerned. But I think, as has been rightly said, the healthcare sector, and especially doctors, have been slow to adopt technology. And I think we need to move out of our silos. There is a need for doctors, engineers, computer scientists, people in humanities to start interacting with each other and seeing how we can provide best and affordable care to our patients.
It's also because we need a complete reorientation of workers because they are the ones who are eventually using this technology, something that we'll probably touch upon in our next session, which we'll have in some time. So I think, thank you so much, gentlemen. That was our time. Some really interesting insights, some really interesting thoughts over there. I know that we as a country have the technology, we have the will, and we have the talent. So together, healthcare and technology will do some exciting things in future. Thank you so much.